Jeff, we saw the Tigers and Royals just win playoff series. We saw a Mariners team that felt like they were comparable to them at times. What did those teams do, though, that the Mariners couldn't do?
Hit enough. I think that's probably the answer at the end of the day. And they finished strong. Well, at least the Tigers finished strong. But, it's amazing. I think the Royals are the team that the Mariners need to look at and be like, oh, my God. Like, how did we not get past them? The Tigers finished like 31-11. They were the best team in baseball after August 11th. Like, they were on an all-time heater. And they, we saw that in the wild card series as well, when they did what the Mariners and, dozens of other individual teams could not do, which is beat the Houston Astros in the postseason. The Astros have more or less owned the American League for 7 years, and they got absolutely stunned by the Tigers. The Royals, though, the Royals had a pair of 7-game losing streaks in the last 5 weeks of the season and still got into the playoffs ahead of the Mariners. And what the Royals did, I think, was a perfect example of what the Mariners could have done if they made it in, which is they pitched their way to the next round. Now, granted, the Mariners bullpen was iffy enough that there would be questions whether they would be able to do what the Royals bullpen did, which was throw 7 2/3 scoreless innings over the 2-game series against the Baltimore Orioles. But I also think that, if you're starting Logan Gilbert and George Kirby or Luis Castillo, in those 3 games, then you're going to get 6, 7, 8 innings from your starting pitcher, whereas the Royals only got 6 from Cole Reagans before he left with a calf cramp, and 4 1/3 from Seth Lugo before he left with the bases loaded and 1 out. So, I would assume that the Mariners starting pitching would be the thing that carries them. And I could absolutely see in another universe the Mariners not only being alive right now, but looking pretty darn good as a favorite in the American League. And that speaks, I think, to how narrow the differences are among American League teams. I don't really think that there's a great team. I don't know really that there's even that good of a team, but whoever advances, whether it's the Yankees, the Royals, the Tigers, or the Guardians, none of them would surprise me at this point.
Well, that's the little note that I have on my legal pad in front of me here, Jeff, because Jerry Dipoto, not a season-ending press conference as they've had in years past, but he met with the local media and just kind of talked about we've been a good team. I mean, we've been a good team for a number of years, and they didn't quite get to the 54% this year, but they've been a good team for a number of years. How do they become a great team? Do you see a pathway this offseason as they go to work on trying to do that very elusive good to great? How do they do it?
They get a first baseman, they get a second baseman, they get a third baseman. Simple as that. You got your outfield taken care of. You can rotate people around DH, but I think a remake of that infield is necessary. And I think whether it comes via trade, and listen, I think Jerry Dipoto is suggesting that trading a starting pitcher being Plan Z.
He said Plan Z to you, Passan. Passan, he said Plan Z.
I know, that's fine.
He was directing that at Jeff Passan. That's Plan Z.
That's perfectly fine. If it's actually his 26th plan, then I think that's an absurd statement, just patently, because how many different options are there when, to me, the most telling part of that media availability was him saying the payroll is not going to go down. What he didn't say is that the payroll is going to go up. And as the salaries of Julio Rodriguez and Cal Raleigh and Logan Gilbert and George Kirby all do go up, are there enough guys leaving potentially either in free agency or in the declining of options to balance that out? And if not, does that then mean that the spending in free agency is not going to be acceptable for the level to which the Mariners need to improve in their infield? And if that is not, that leaves you with two options. That leaves you with an option A and an option B. Option A is you trade prospects to go get the bats. Option B is you trade pitchers. There's really there are no other choices. So if you want to go all the way down to Z, I suppose that for exaggeration's sake, I applaud Jerry Dipoto in saying that we are not going to trade starting pitchers. And that's fine. I get that. I get that perspective, and it's a totally fair one. But if you are trying to accomplish the other things that you say you'd like to accomplish, then you got to do it some other way. And that other way is not going to be with money, then it's going to be with prospects. And if it's going to be with prospects, you're running the risk of trading your core in the future to make yourself better now.
So it sounds like, just kind of to clarify here, basically because we have seen some noticeable free agent misses over these past couple off seasons, we know the positions you just outlined, but is the kind of player that they actually need to help this lineup going to be available to them in free agency?
Well, let's look at what the free agent options are. I think this is an important thing to do because we need to know the names that are out there, right? The free agent first basemen are going to be Pete Alonso, Christian Walker, Paul Goldschmidt, Rhys Hoskins, Ryan O'Hearn, Josh Bell, Carlos Santana, Anthony Rizzo. Those are your options there. And you have everything ranging from guys who are going to cost, $5 to $8 million a year, all the way up to $25 million plus. If you get in that 5 to 8 territory, you're probably going to have, guys who are more platoon players. Like Ryan O'Hearn's really good against right-handed pitching, not quite as good against lefties. Carlos Santana has been there. Josh Bell, production's decent, but, he's not going to be a real game changer. At third base, you have Alex Bregman, and that's pretty much it, unless you put Willie Adames there going from shortstop to third base. Both of those guys are going to be $25+ million a year players. Simple as that. And at second base, there's Gleyber Torres, and a bunch of guys you probably don't want to sign. Maybe Ha-Seong Kim, but he's injured right now. Wilmer Flores, another guy who is more of a platoon guy. Brandon Drury, coming off a horrendous year. Adam Frazier, not the impact type player you want. Tell me, guys, what do you do from that group?
Christian Walker.
Christian Walker. Yeah, Christian Walker would be great. You know how many teams are going to want Christian Walker? 15, because he's an exceptional defensive first baseman who's got power too, and a very good clubhouse guy. So Christian Walker's probably going to be in the 3 to 4 year at $18 million or so a year. Is that the kind of contract that the Mariners are going to be willing to give out? Are they going to win a bidding war for someone like Christian Walker? And I ask this in all sincerity. I don't know the answer to it, guys. I don't. But if this is how you're going to proceed with a payroll that's going to be the same as it was last year, or around the same as it was last year, and all of those raises are in place and they are balanced out by the guys who are leaving, like potentially Jorge Polanco and other free agents. Are you telling me that the Mariners ownership is going to be willing to spend $18 million a year on a first baseman?
Well, history would tell you no. Mr. Stanton,
Correct.
I think Adam Jude had an article the other day, and I don't know, again, I don't want to mischaracterize anything, but the conversation of signing ascending young players versus signing and putting yourself out there for aging players, that's not been what they've done in the past.